about earlier. 2 Brain Maggots, 4 Eidolons, 1 Farika, God of Affliction, 2 Doomweight Giants, and 4 Corsair Crewfix. So
Line of War ways to start the party.
Not capping out here on Doomweight Giants, which is usually one of the premier incentives to play this sort of deck.
It's plains here for Miyashiro. Again, most decks in this format don't get started until turn 3, so it's not too surprising to see just a little draw go action. Looks like a little mana acceleration here and Sylvan Caryatid. Miyashiro gives you the thumbs up. Underway here in round number 6. Miyashiro, nothing to do though, I don't believe him.
So now, this Constellation deck really isn't maximizing the enchantment theme necessarily, but it does have a small graveyard synergy theme, as you see Sylvan Wayfinder here. 4 copies of Murderous Cut and 2 Whip of Erebos. So sort of the middle ground between the self-mill sort of Sidisi graveyard decks and a green-black Constellation strategy.
There's Nykthos. A little bit of mana here from you. He's gonna, looks like he's gonna take another point of damage. 2 mana spells gonna be Commune with the Gods, so take a look at the top 5 cards here. A Satyr Wayfinder, a Swamp, a Forest, Windswept Heath, and a Brain Maggot.
And Brain Maggot, one of those cards where maybe you don't want to be playing it on its own right, but with Eidolon Blossoms and Doomweight Giant, it can pull its own weight.
Satyr Wayfinder gonna go to the grip, the rest are gonna go to the bin. He's starting to work his way towards Devotion. I knew that Miyashiro had something to do there. Going to take 1 from the Land of War waste to play an Abzan Charm. Looks like he's going to pay 2 life to draw 2 cards. So down to 17, he's going to go. We'll see if he's actually got a creature to put on the battlefield here on turn number 4.
This is a matchup I would not be that excited to play if I was playing Abzan midrange. Usually this deck is able to overpower most other midrange strategies with just better threats. Green-Black Constellations is the type of deck that can overpower Abzan midrange, because once the synergies get online, it's substantially more powerful than sort of just the individual quality removal spells and threats that something like Abzan midrange brings to the table.
Looks like he was going to take 1. Let's see what this is going to be. There's a copy of Eidolon Blossom's trigger. It's time to draw a card. See if he finds a land to play. Doesn't look like he does, so he's just going to pass the turn back to Miyashiro. He's going to play a Bioblight. Get rid of that. Of course, you see the Urborg out there. And allow him to tap for black mana. Miyashiro going to play a Sandstep Citadel. And now it's time for a Thoughtseize. We're going to see a whole bunch of green cards. Oh, 2 copies of Murderous Cut. Not 1, but 2 copies of Hornet Queen. Also a copy of Commune with the Gods. And then that Satyr Wayfinder from much earlier.
Like I said, this deck definitely suited to overpower Abzan midrange.
Hornet Queen is the nightmare for Abzan midrange.
And these Murderous Cuts are problematic too.
Yeah.
It means his Siege Rhinos and his Corsairs just aren't worth very much.
I had 2 copies of that fantastic removal spell in the grip. Miyashiro is going to take a Hornet Queen. I would too.
And you see Miyashiro's hand right now is just 2 lands and 2 removal spells. This would be fine against most decks, but against Bradley, this is not going to cut it.
See what you wants to do on this turn. Looks like he's going to go with a Satyr Wayfinder. Turn over the top 4 cards. Land of War Waste, Nylon of Blossoms, Sylvan Caryatid, and an Elvish Mystic. The creatures will go to the bin. The land will go to the hand.
Little pieces of value.
Yep.
Another mana symbol, another land. Some more cards in the graveyard.
Looks like a Nykthos activation for green, so it'll be for 3. There's a Commune. So we'll take a look at a Forest on Hornet Queen, Nylon of Blossoms, a Farika, and a Whip of Erebos.
Jiminy.
Quite the choices there. Farika's just a 1 of. Looks like he's going to let that go. Going to go with Whip of Erebos, but that one's a really tough one for Miyashiro to beat. Now there's the land of, an Elvish Mystic.
Whip of Erebos, Hornet Queen against Abzan midrange is, I mean, it's hard to just beat that with removal spells, you know? And Wingmate rocks. That's not going to cut it.
Windswept Teeth and just a passing of the turn. So Yu is just kind of doing his thing with no one here to stop him.
Yep. And even if he had some threats, they probably wouldn't matter very much. Bradley just sitting on 2 copies of Murderous Cut through all of this. Green-black Constellations is definitely terrible against random pieces of spot removal.
Doesn't care
It's
at all.
All non-essential elements or things that comes into play triggers or some way to negate the impact of random heroes' downfalls.
A Commune will turn over a Courser. Wooded Foothills, a Temple of Malady, Murderous Cut, and a Llanowar Waste. Courser's going to go to the grip. The rest are going to go to the graveyard. Yeah, that was through a Nykthos, so a little bit of mana floating. There is a Courser. Take a look at the top card. It's a Forest. Not going to pass up on that. Gain a life with the Courser.
This is the issue here. James can't really kill this kind of stuff. He needs to save it for the big stuff. But it doesn't even matter if he saves it for the big stuff. He almost needs to kill the enablers to some extent because Bradley's running away with this game just by what he's doing right now.
There's an attack with 3 little dorks. One of them will get blocked, 2 damage will get through. Miyashiro going to draw a card. Didn't get a great look at it. He's got a land to play there in case of Coilos, and he's just really doing nothing right now. It's night and day.
Not a lot to be done.
Yeah. Temple of Malady, the top card. You saw Doomwake Giant wants to draw. Temple going to come in. Courser going to gain a life. It's time to scry. Satyr Wayfinder is the top card. That's going to go to the bottom. New card is a swap. So that's what you will take a look at next turn. And one thing to know about this deck, Nykthos is more of a value card in this deck. You're not Nykthos-centric.
Exactly. He's not trying to Pulukrinos for 19 like we see in these green devotion strategies. The mana is very stable, and if he is able to generate an extra little bit of mana to help cast Hornet Queen ahead of schedule, that's good for him, but not an essential element.
Here's Whip of Erebos. With enough mana to activate it. All on the same turn. And now we're having a real ball. Give me that Hornet Queen, probably. Yep. 4 Busy Bees going to come back. All of them with Death Touch, of course. And every creature that Bradley U does control has lifelink. At least for now.
And Bradley still has 4 cards in hand. I believe it's a Hornet Queen and 2 Murderous Cuts among them.
Doomwake Giant's the last one.
Sure. Why not?
Time to get attacking. Of course, those green insect creature tokens, they can't attack just yet. They're summoning sick, but the Hornet Queen is not. Sylvan Caryatid going to get in front of Courser, but these life totals are going to change in favor of you here in just a moment. So after the dust settles, Yu's going to gain a healthy amount of life. Looks like it's going to be 6. Looks like he'll be headed back to 25. Hornet Queen's going to leave for good. And Yu is happy to pass a turn back over to Miyashiro, who does have a copy of Utter End. Will take care of the Whip. But the Whip already got enough value.
Exactly.
There's Bile to take care of the bees. Miyashiro going to draw, play Caves. It has not lined up well here for James this game. Swamp the draw. Urborg on top. Urborg going to come into play. You're going to go to 26 now. Take a look at the top card here. Copy of Violana Blossoms. Now we're having a party.
Oh, we've been having a party for a couple turns now.
Yeah, I'm late to it, I think. Here's an attack for 5. Pretty easy block. 3 damage going to come across. Miyashiro's going to go down to 6. He's going to activate Nykthos. That'll be for 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 mana. And one more.
Some bees.
He's actually going with a Doomwake Giant. That'll clear that thing out of here.
Oh, sure. Yeah, might as well.
2 damage already on the Caryatid. Trigger, of course, says, get out of here, please. Big old Doomwake, of course. Whenever it or another enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, creatures your opponent control get -1/-1 until a turn. Miyashiro very quickly draws and just passes the turn back. Doomwake and everybody else going to come into the red zone. Hero's Downfall will take care of that, not Murderous Cut. So it looks like Bradley is 1 point short of getting the job done.
There is always next turn. And now Bradley's in a spot where he's ahead enough where he can even play around main deck and hostilities.
Yep. Doesn't have to put anything else on the table. 3 mana. Looks like it might be a Nykthos activation. It is for 6. Down to 2 as there's Nylana Blossoms. Elvish Mystic going to be added to the hand. Top card is Whip of Erebos.
And now Bradley definitely needs to do nothing.
I'll tell you what, this deck draws a lot of cards.
Well,
It goes through itself really fast.
When it's uncontested, which it largely will be in this matchup, it's going to be able to do very powerful stuff.
Bradley, you're going to win game number 1 here over James Miyashiro. Green-black Constellation emphatically up a game over Abzan mid-range. We turn our attention to the sideboard here. You see Miyashiro already going reaching. He's looking at 2 Despise, a couple copies of Fleece Mane Lions, more Murderous Cuts, an Utter End, the Silence of Believers, 2 copies of Elspeth, 3 Drowning Sorrows, and 2 copies of Bile Blight. There's nothing here that I really love.
Well, the removal's fine. I think the Drowning Sorrows there's enough going on in Bradley's deck where that's productive to have the Bile Blights, the Despises. But as you said, no real way to turn the matchup around in a substantial way. And one of the fears I have for James in this matchup is not a lot of flyers. Bradley's so good at blocking. He only has the 2 copies of Wingmate Rock and I suppose Sorin as well, but not a lot of ways to fly over the top, and he also doesn't have a lot of sweepers. So he's going to have to play pretty honest pound-for-pound Magic with Bradley, and that's a game plan that Bradley's really well suited to win.
What do we have on Bradley's side?
2 more copies of Doomweight Giants, so the 3rd and the 4th one. A Dark Betrayal, 2 Heroes Downfalls. A second of Farika, a copy of Nissa, 4 Thoughtseize, 4 Arbor Colossus. I like the 2 copies of Heroes Downfall. I like the Nissa and the additional Farika. And I wouldn't mess around with too much else.
Okay. Well, both players are going to shuffle up here. We'll talk about our good friend, Mr. Squirrel Confidant. He's carrying around a panda that I believe is up to no good.
And very popular, another addition to our Squirrel series here. 2 of these tokens given away at every Legacy Open. And if you are interested in purchasing these playmats, dice bags, deck boxes, sleeves, you can get them at any Open that we're running or on the website. So you can head over to StarCityGames.com right now and pick these up if you're interested.
We'll see what happens for next year.
Good.
We'll see what happens next year. Again, you guys know how we feel about the Hippo camp.
It's only a matter of time.
But those decisions are not up to us. They're at the higher-ups there at Star City Games. So we'll see what they come up with. Though we're just saying that Hippos are guaranteed money.
It's
That's
a
all we're
lock.
saying.
It's a lock.
We'll be the first ones in line to purchase them.
Absolutely.
We don't mind. It's not about that. It's about the great Hippo artwork. At the very
Big
least,
eyes,
I'll probably
cheeks.
have something commissioned myself at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Hippo sleeves, I can get them made.
Its eyes just barely above water as it's making its way through the river.
Some sort of swamp. What kind of water do hippos hang out in?
I think just regular rivers.
Okay. Nothing too crazy.
No.
I could see a hippo in like a polluted delta, for example.
No,
Some super dirty water.
I would imagine a polluted delta would kill them.
You're probably right, actually.
I mean, I'm no biologist, whatever,
You're
but
probably right.
that's my best guess.
I hadn't considered that. How about a bad river there? That's where it hangs
even
out.
still.
Well, it's just not a good river. It doesn't mean it's dirty, really, per
Sure.
se.
The names of the Mirage fetch lands are uninspired.
What else are there? There's bad river. There's floodplain.
When one of the 2 lands that you can get with it is literally in the name of the card,
Yeah.
that means someone on the creative team was not trying.
Those earlier times then.
Yeah.
Earlier times.
Tree Mountain.
Yeah.
Dude, you gotta try harder than that. You gotta try a little bit harder than that.
Well, it gets its point across.
I
That's
understand
nice.
you got a deadline coming, it's stressful, like whatever, but you gotta try harder than that.
Simplicity can be nice sometimes, Patrick.
It's true. It's true.
Here's an Elvish Mystic off of a Forest from Bradley, searching that up with the Windswept Teeth. Saw James just start off game number 2 with a Cave of Koilos.
Like how resonant of a name is Battlefield Forge. You feel like something's being communicated, not just about the land, but of the color combination, in a way that, say, Bad River fails to communicate.
Yeah, sure, I'm going to draw a card. There's a copy of Siege Rhino. There's a Forest. We'll pass the turn back over to you. Lenore wastes the draw. Looks like there's a Sylvan Caryatid over there and a Farika, too.
And keep in mind, James with no real haymakers here to break serve. He's on the aggro-ish end of the spectrum, which means it's hard for him to sideboard in sweepers.
Caryatid, now a Temple of Malady. Take a look at the top card. So the mana accelerants are here for you as he does leave the top card on top from the scry. Miyashiro draws a card. And we just saw that look all during game number 1 as he sat, drew, and passed the turn. He didn't really do very much in that game. Here's a Thoughtseize this time. And here's the grip of a Courser of Crufix, a Farika, God of Affliction, a Satyr Wayfinder, an Elvish Mystic, and a copy of Llanowar Waste. So not the best hand I've ever seen. 2 relevant cards there in Corsair and Farika.
Yeah, just more sources of card advantage and ways to build up the board without really going all in on an individual threat.
See what Miyashiro selects here in this situation.
I feel like the Farika is the more dangerous card because of the Wayfinder in hand. And I guess James is concluding the same thing.
You're going to draw a card. Copy of Thoughtseize for him. But maybe he wants to lead off with a Corsair. We'll see. Either way, Farika to the graveyard for now. 3 mana. Looks like we may go coursing. We do. Top card is another Corsair of Crucifix.
I haven't seen that many marquee constructed cards where the first copy is so good, and then the additional copies are on enormous diminishing returns, like Corsair.
Yeah, Corsair certainly feels that way, doesn't it?
I mean, legendary creatures, you know, they could be that way too, but of non-legendary creatures, Corsair is near the top of the list.
2 Siege Rhinos, an Elspeth, a Sorin Solemn Visitor, and a Windswept Heath.
Now, these Thoughtseizes are out of the sideboard here, and it wouldn't surprise me if Bradley brought these in out of respect for and hostilities and Doom Blast that you typically see in these Obzon sideboards.
Those one of mass removal spells that they try to get you with.
Yeah.
So I'll Mass Calcify and R.A. Laxus sideboarded Pro Tour, Cons of Tarkir as well.
But these are one of those hands where Thoughtseize is not great. There's not a critical piece in James's hand, nor is there a way to really leave this hand without an element by taking, say, the one removal spell or the one threat. Thoughtseizing and seeing 4 threat cards is not great.
Yeah, I like the selection of Sorin there. That one's probably the scariest of the bunch, but the Rhinos are going to come raining down soon. So let our waste come in. This is an Elvish Mystic. And passing the turn. So Miyashiro actually gets to do something this game. Last game he did a whole lot of nothing. In this game, at least he'll have a Siege Rhino to work with. Does draw a card for the turn. And there's a Windswept Heath. He will sacrifice that, go down to 16. And he'll be gaining a little bit of life here in just a moment.
And I like Bradley taking the Planeswalker here because James is equipped to come up the ground and start getting a lot of value out of Planeswalkers. But these Siege Rhinos, it's going to be hard for them to attack. And Bradley also just has the option of drawing a Murderous Cut at any point and moving on with life.
It's 4 mana. It is Siege Rhino number 1 for Miyashiro. So a little drain and gain. He will, of course, take 1 from the Caves of Koilos to actually cast the Rhino, and that'll be his black source. You can see both players making sure their life totals are correct here. You know, Thoughtseize the fetch land. You want to make sure you didn't miss anything.
Yeah, a lot of little pieces of damage.
Of course, your Crucifix to draw here. Commune with the Gods. The top card here for you. As you mentioned, the second Corsair nowhere near as good as the first. Well, Corsair will come down. I'm just going to pass the turn back. So Miyashiro will draw a card. And Johnny Mentor Heroes is what he's added to the grip. He's going to start by bashing in for 4.
Thud.
This isn't the worst spot to be in, I think, if you're you to say everybody try to block this jerk. Though, could get it very wrong. A card like Obzon Charm makes this not so good.
Yeah. But Bradley did Thoughtseize him a few turns ago, so put him to the test.
Yep.
He took the risk, but again, the second Corsair is not worth that much, so if it turns out you're wrong, well, so what? You're down, you know, not down much.
Well, I like that block quite a bit. Second Rhino comes in, gains a little bit of life. You get the Gods added to the grip. Swamp going to come into play now.
Especially with the second Siege Rhino you know about, you can't just take these hits. You got to try to do something.
Hornet Queen, the top card of the deck. That's what he's working towards. And he's actually got 7 mana in play right now. So that'll be castable next turn. Looks like we're going to go with the Commune with the Gods. Take a look. There's the Queen, an Urboard, Murderous Cut, Temple, and Eidolon of Blossoms. Eidolon of Blossoms might be a little bit appealing. It looks like he's going to go with the Hornet Queen.
I wonder if Bradley would have been better served just taking the draw step next turn and not casting Commune.
Potentially.
Because it's almost impossible that he's drawing something better than a Hornet Queen through that Commune. So let's say he does nothing, then next turn he just draws and casts the Hornet Queen, and now next turn you have way more fresh looks at a card you might actually take with the Commune.
Top card here is a Whip of Erebos.
Nice.
That is pretty nice. Clearing things away with Seder Wayfinder and Commune with the Gods. Staring back at a whip and a Hornet Queen in hand. It's a pretty good spot to be in.
I guess the other side of that, if James just goes untap, kill one of your mana creatures so you don't buy more mana, then you're down your turn and you're drawing a Hornet Queen you can't cast. But I think there still might be an argument for Bradley just saying, go that last turn instead of all of this.
Siege Rhino into the red zone. You will not be blocking a lot this turn. Here is a Bile Blight to take care of these Elvish Mystics.
Keeping off that Hornet Queen, which is what he needs to do.
Absolutely. Whip of Erebos, the draw. Top card of the deck is Nylon of Blossoms. He does have a land to play. Looks like he's going to play the Whip. This is a card that is trending upward in a big way. He's going to attack for 3. He'll go back up to 11. Miyashiro is going to go down to 17. Trigger from the Courser. Going to put you up to 12. Just pass the turn back 1 mana away from being able to cast that Hornet Queen as he does take a look at his graveyard to examine what he can bring back with the Whip. This is 5 mana. That's on a Johnny. That's going to come in. Of course, the Elevator can only go up on that. Siege Rhino is going to become a 7-power creature into the red zone. That comes.
I like just pumping up the jam here.
Trying to close it out.
Yeah.
The longer the game goes, the worse it is for Miyashiro.
Also may allow him to beat a resolved Hornet Queen if he just keeps putting more and more counters on the Siege Rhino.
Nylon of Blossoms, the top card here. He was able to find a land, put it into play, go up to 6. As we all know, he does have Hornet Queen in hand and the necessary mana to cast it now. Though he does examine his graveyard to see what's down there with of Erebos. As he may have some interest here in returning something and trying to kill that Ajani.
Yes.
It's causing a lot of problems right now.
Though I can't imagine it being better than casting the Hornet Queen unless he has something of approximate value to get back here.
Well, it'll be a Whip of Activation. He does have Nylon of Blossoms down there.
Nylon's pretty attractive.
He also has a Farika.
A Farika's pretty nice here, too.
That is pretty good, yeah. That thing is live, I think. 2, 3, 4. Yeah, it's live. Yikes. It's getting a lot of life back from that, too. He says over there. Horse is going to go to you. Farika's going to go there. This is gaining 7, mind you. And then we could also see a Farika activation to make a Death Touch Snake.
Beautiful turn.
So away goes the Elvish Mystic. Death Touch Snake going to come in.
This is better than casting the Hornet Queen.
I'm inclined to agree.
A lot of value this turn out of a Farika, which is sometimes awkward to generate through Whip of Erebos.
Yeah, the fact that he was able to gain so much life, I think, is the most important part. There is your snake. It's an enchantment, don't forget, but that doesn't matter right now as Miyashiro's going to untap and draw a card. 6 mana. That's an Elspeth. Slammed down confidently. Elevator's going up there. 3 soldiers coming. Though, and this is a strange thing to say, this is one of the least impressive Elspeths I've seen.
It's not going to be very good here unless James has something like Bile Blight to contain the Hornet Queen. Hornet Queen will win this fight over the long term.
Top card's Sylvan Caryatid. You saw Miyashiro take 1 off of Caves of Koilos to be able to cast that Elspeth. You, again, looking at the graveyard for Whip. But now he's finally tapping a bunch of mana. I think this is the Hornet Queen, and it is. So a whole lot of power coming into play. Spread across 5 creatures. And back to Miyashiro we go.
With flying and Death Touch. Yep. I mean, the total package of this card against Abzan is really, really good.
This is 4 mana. It's a copy of Utterem. That'll take care of the Whip. That's an important card to have off of the table, as that was the card that was keeping you in the game. The problem here for Miyashiro, no great attacks.
Not this turn. Though, if James is setting up a Drown in Sorrow here, he's getting to a pretty good spot. And I wonder if he's contemplating an attack here just because he feels, I'm going to Drown in Sorrow next turn anyway, and there's not a lot to be done with these tokens. But if he was going to make an attack here, I think he needed to do this before Utter ending the Whip. Because that does so much information for Bradley's blocks.
Yeah. Elspeth ticks up. Now here are the attacks. I'm not sure there are very many good ones here.
Yeah, this is a pretty easy block here.
Yeah. A bunch of freebies, really. So back to you, we're going to go.
And this may signal to Bradley that something's up. There's a sweeper coming next turn.
Yeah.
Because the attack's really hard to justify otherwise.
Of course, we're going to gain a life. We'll see what the top card is here in a minute. Another copy of Sylvan Carry added. And nowadays, when you're playing against Abzan, you know, it's on your radar that they have cards like Doom Blast and Hostilities. That's not a secret anymore. Elspeth's going to bite the dust from all the flyers. There's 2, 3, 4. Eidolon of Blossoms, going to go cantripping. Take a look, Windswept Teeth. 3 and 4. Eidolon of Blossoms, trigger 1, make it 2. Hornet Queen was the card that was added, top cards and Elvish Mystic. And you thought last game was fun.
But now James has been sitting on Drown in Sorrow this whole time. This is a really good spot.
Oh! There it is. And it's going to kill a lot of stuff.
Still leaves Bradley with enough mana next turn to fire back with a Hornet Queen.
Yep.
But I think Bradley probably felt like he had the game pretty firmly locked up, and now it's gotten a little dicey.
Siege Rhino's going to come across, not for 7, but for 5, due to Drown in Sorrow. You reveals a Courser.
But even through all this, just look how many cards are in Bradley's hand.
Yeah, that's the crazy part.
That's the noteworthy thing about all this. It's just hard to beat this deck with slow creatures and removal spells. It's a very good recipe against other elements of the format, but this deck is just too powerful.
An attack for 2. Miyashiro's going to go down to 12. And the crazy thing to think about is he was working towards Drown in Sorrow the entire time. It happened. It cleared a lot of things away, but here's a second wave of army.
Life is going on just fine for Bradley.
Yeah. There's the Windswept Teeth. Trigger the Courser. Up to 10. Could sacrifice the fetch land. Put another carry added in play. Don't know how much that actually changes things in this game. So you will just pass the turn back. Miyashiro's playing empty-handed. He's scryed to the bottom with Drown in Sorrow.
Yeah, you feel like he needs a second Drown in Sorrow to be able to win this game.
To even have a shot.
Nothing else he has even really matters that much. He is very light on sweepers besides.
Here comes the Rhino.
I think Bradley, if he's making this attack here, if you block with 1 token, you kill the Siege Rhino, you leave as much back as possible in the event that he has just like a Bile Blight.
Yeah. I like this block a lot because he takes very little trample damage.
Yeah, Bradley's been really sharp this whole match.
Yeah. Takes very little trample damage. He plays around a card like Bile Blight, because if he just goes singular block with Death Touch token, he says, okay, Bile Blight it, trample over for a bunch of damage. You're in a pretty bad spot. This way, he's saved a lot. Miyashiro has nothing left. Now Bradley gets to keep doing his thing.
Exactly.
He's played very well.
Great block that turn. If he also just puts the Hornet Queen itself in front by itself, the same thing happens. He Bile Blights, you can assign all the trample damage to the player, and then next turn, if another Bile Blight gets drawn, a Drown in Sorrow, you know, a variety of things, it can get dangerous.
Another Courser here. Now there is an Elvish Mystic. He'll pass the turn back over to Miyashiro. Miyashiro going to play a Temple of Silence off the top of his deck. Take a look at the top card. That one's going to go to the bottom, so it's a mystery to everybody. He knows his top card. It's a Thoughtseize. He doesn't want to draw that. So he'll sacrifice Windswept Teeth. He'll take 1 now, but he'll gain 2. So it's a net +1, up to 9. See the life totals here. 9 for you, 10 for Miyashiro. And we'll see what the top card is here for Bradley in just a moment. Make no mistake about it. His deck's good and he's good. No surprise he's 5-0.
Yeah. And you can see why the matchup here against Abzan is so sweet.
Swamp will be the draw. Top card is a Forest. So that's coming into play. Trigger 2 Coursers up to 11. And now we got a Thoughtseize. Here's an attack for 5. Conveniently a 2-turn clock, mind you. Miyashiro's going to go down to 5. A draw step? That'll yield a Llanowar Waste. And Bradley Yu is going to win this match over James Miyashiro. 2-0. Green-Black Constellation takes down Abzan mid-range in very impressive fashion.
That was a clinic. because it wasn't like James's draws were that bad. I mean, game 1 he flooded out a little bit, didn't really find any action, but even if he did find some threat cards, Bradley could have easily swatted that away with the murderous cuts he had left in his hand. In game 2 there's nothing James can really complain about his draw, you know? Had land spells, he had a Drown Star at a really good spot, but Bradley's tight play and sound structure of his deck for this matchup was enough to carry the day.
A lot of velocity. Got through his deck at an alarming rate. Able to find other cards he needs. You know, the reason he can play 2 copies of Blue Erebos instead of 4 is because I can get through my deck really fast.